someone doesn't get sufficient resources for applying for disaster relief. She's come after me, calling at all hours of the night to make sure we're addressing every single person's needs. We may or may not hang out if you're ever looking for us on the street as we're meeting constituents and maybe grabbing a bite or two. Assemblywoman Catalina Cruz.
Sorry.
She's not lying. I do call at all hours of the day because our community needs it. And the fact that I have an amazing friend and Congresswoman in Grace who will answer every single time I go and find the resources out of God knows where. I don't ask. I just take advantage of the fact that my community gets the help. So we've all seen the videos. We all laugh at the swimming in the subway that looks like a tank, and the woman who has the bag on her head trying to get out of the train station. We all find it amusing, but it shouldn't be. The fact that we have to go by so we can. If you either do a press conference on the 7th train or this, you know exactly how it goes. And so we find it amusing, but it shouldn't be. Because why should we have the kind of train system that is perfectly okay in transit systems, perfectly okay to try to raise our fare every year, every other year. But we have to deal with train stations that flood. Yesterday, I was coming home from a meeting and there were signal problems that caused massive hours-long delays on the EF line. We have to deal with the kind of systems that have been promising you accessibility for 20, 30 years. 30 whole years. The EPA's been around.
Sorry.
Yet, every single time they want to raise our fare, there they are, with a smiling face. There's a tweet saying, oh, oops, our bad that our system doesn't work, but why don't you go to the next train station and see if you can purchase your car there? That's not acceptable for working class New Yorkers. That's not acceptable for our constituents who have to get to work every single day. Even during the pandemic, they had to get to work because we're the ones who kept the city running. And so I'm here to, in the same way that Grace has supported our community, I'm here to support Grace in her effort to make sure that we have the kind of train, the kind of train system that we can be proud of. We go to other countries where they have libraries in their trains. We can't even get a damn machine to work properly so that we can buy a fare and go into the train system. We deserve a transit system that we can be proud of. I will settle for one that can get us to a place on time. We don't have that, we haven't had that, and it is about time that we have that. Este sistema de transporte da vergüenza. Llevamos años exigiendo. Vemos los videos en YouTube, en el internet, en Facebook, que dan risa de el ratón nadando en el agua porque se inundaron las estaciones de tren. Vemos los videos de las personas nadando literalmente como si fuera una piscina durante la tormenta. Y cada año lo que vemos es que los que manejan este sistema nos quieren aumentar el pasaje, pero no funciona para la gente trabajadora y para la gente pobre de la forma que tiene que funcionar. Y aquí estamos para apoyar no solo a Grace, pero también a nuestra alianza para que por fin tengamos un sistema de transporte que funcione para los usuarios. Un sistema que no nos dé vergüenza, del que nos sintamos orgullosos o que por lo menos nos lleve de punto A a punto B a tiempo. Gracias, y aquí vamos a estar hasta que nos cumplan. So we're going to be here and pushing until they at least give us the bare minimum, which is get us from point A to point B on time so that people can get to work.
Thank you, Assemblymember Cruz. As she said, we're not asking for that much here. Next up, I'm really proud to introduce one of our closest partners in this campaign, the Executive Director of the Tri-State Transportation Campaign and a daughter of Queens, Renee Reynolds.
Everyone. Yeah, my family
migrated from Jamaica, and the first place he told me.
Hey Inez, how you doing? Call from Passengers United. I'm going to be releasing a statement after this event. I called the OC's office and I sent her all the financials.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's why she may have not shown up, because I took care of it. This is out of control. They haven't been to an empty board meeting in 2 years. Something needs to be said, and so I'll deal with this tonight. And we put out a letter, and I'll come and meet with you.
Okay.
Matter of fact, are you going to be in the office tomorrow?
No, we're traveling to Buffalo.
Okay.
And then next week we're upstate, so let's maybe do it the following week.
Okay.
The week of the 27th.
Okay, no problem.
I need to ask you to please leave our event. Okay. Please.
You want me to leave your event?
Yes.
Why?
Yes, because you're being disruptive. You continue to write. Charlton, can you please put that away?
I'm not being disruptive. I have a right to be here. It's a city sidewalk.
Okay, please go around to the other side then. You're not standing with us. I've given you so many opportunities to calmly and maturely talk, and you have not done those, and you've continued to threaten our organization, threaten me personally, and I don't feel safe with that. Our members, we cannot have you here. If you want to work together, we can talk, but you're not doing that right now, so could you please go around to the other
Okay.
side?
So Congress must significantly increase federal funding for public transit, particularly for transit operations. And we're asking Congress to keep the original bipartisan agreement and to increase spending through the reconciliation bill in front of Congress now by $10 billion. Tens of millions of people in the U.S., from our rural towns to our major urban centers, rely on public transit to get to work every day, generating trillions of dollars in economic activity. Every single dollar invested in transit offers a 5-to-1 return, and every $1 billion invested in public transit produces 50,000 jobs. So transit agencies are oftentimes the largest employers in their cities. We're thanking our representative, Grace Meng, for co-sponsoring the Stronger Communities Through Better Transit Act. It is a mouthful, I know, I've been struggling to say it, but which would provide the MTA with $3 billion to avert the steep fare hikes and deep service cuts that we cannot afford to have. We call on Senator Schumer and Gillibrand and our New York and New Jersey congressional delegates to support this act as well, to save the MTA, to save New Jersey Transit and public transit across the nation. Operating funds, as everyone has mentioned before, is badly needed for maintenance, for overcoming our labor shortages, and making sure that we are climate resilient moving forward. We can't afford to have more flooding like we saw during Hurricane Ida. The time is now. We don't have any more time to waste. We have to transform transit now. If everyone can say, transform transit. Transform transit. Transform transit. Transform transit.
Awesome. Next we have someone who's traveled here from the other side of Queens, but he is such an incredible advocate on so many issues, from climate change to protecting our workers to improving and reforming the Board of Elections here in New York State, and also partly responsible for helping the New York State Senate to change into the control of the Democratic Party to watch out for the values of so many families throughout Queens and New York City. Our Deputy Majority Leader, Mike Gianaris.
Yeah, just for the record, Astoria is not the other side of Queens. Not that far away. The Rockaway.
That's Rockaway.
Okay.
Listen, folks,
With this transit system.
That's true. Listen, I appreciate the great work of the advocates standing behind me and all my colleagues here. But I, for one, am sick and tired of attending press conferences like this. Ida was not the first time the subway system had problems because of weather. Maybe it was the worst, but it was not the first. It was only a couple months before when we saw flooding in the subways again. And the accessibility or lack thereof in our mass transit system has been a problem for decades. We are and have been the worst public transit system in the country for accessibility for a long, long time. There's been too much neglect of the system, too much worrying about
What's up?
not involved mass transit. We can't do anything. It's time to correct that.
Are you giving out your statement to people?
Best chance, most rural urban chance we've had in a very long time. We cannot do this opportunity. Congressman and all colleagues are doing great work to try to get this to the finish line, but we have to focus on it. This is our best chance to do this. The previous administration was anti-city in this country. So what do? When they take control, they run up the score, do whatever they can to hurt the cities and help the rest of the cities. Now is our chance to do it the other way. And with Grace Meng's leadership, we know it's going to get done. But we have to focus on mass transit, not just because the people of New York City need it. We certainly do.